In the winter of 1804, a community's collective fear manifested a monster out of the dark, resulting in a very real murder. Look at this view of Hammersmith from the era. Today, it's a bustling London borough, but in 1803, it was an isolated village. It was separated from the city by undeveloped fields and dirt tracks. There were no modern street lamps. Nighttime brought total, suffocating darkness. The people living here were already on edge. England was deep into the Napoleonic Wars, and the threat of a French invasion hung over everyday life. On top of that, London wouldn't establish a professional police force for another 25 years. Public safety relied entirely on untrained citizen patrols and parish watchmen. In November, strange rumors started spreading about the local churchyard. People claimed to see a towering figure dressed in white. The locals quickly decided it was the restless spirit of a man who had taken his own life the year before. Because suicide was considered a grave sin, they believed his burial in consecrated ground meant his soul was trapped, forced to wander the earth. This engraving from 1804 shows exactly how the public pictured the threat. Witnesses described an aggressive predator that physically attacked its victims. A pregnant woman was grasped in a spectral embrace, and a brewer's servant testified the figure seized him by the throat. Panic set in. Residents refused to leave their homes after sundown. Frustrated and terrified, groups of armed citizens took it upon themselves to patrol the pitch-black lanes, actively hunting the spirit. The combination of physical darkness, extreme isolation, and Gothic folklore perfectly primed the community's collective psychology to expect a monster in the shadows. Late on the evening of January 3, 1804, a 29-year-old excise officer named Francis Smith was on patrol. He was walking down Black Lion Lane, a narrow dirt path flanked on both sides by tall hedges, carrying a loaded shotgun. Through the thick mist and charcoal shadows, a stark, blinding white shape emerged directly in front of him. Smith called out, demanding the figure stop. He yelled a second time. The shape kept coming in total silence. Terrified, Smith raised his weapon and fired in a state of sheer, blind panic. When Smith approached the fallen figure, the illusion shattered. The shape on the ground was bleeding. He had shot Thomas Millwood, an innocent 22-year-old bricklayer who was simply walking home. Millwood was wearing the pristine white linen uniform of his trade, white trousers, a white flannel waistcoat, and a white apron. Starved of visual data in the pitch-black lane, Smith's brain projected the town's collective nightmare onto the white clothes of a plaster-dusted worker. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, the public learned the real Hammersmith ghost was entirely fake. An elderly local shoemaker named John Graham came forward and confessed to the magistrates that he had been the one haunting the churchyard. This diagram tracks the panic's contagion. To scare his apprentices, Graham threw a white sheet over his head. But in an isolated, fearful environment, this domestic prank mutated. Rumors spiraled out of control, creating a mass hysteria that ended in a fatality. Human fear acts as an acoustic chamber. A harmless trick in the dark echoed until it was loud enough to kill an innocent man. 10 days later, Francis Smith stood trial for willful murder at the Old Bailey. Smith relied on a mistake-of-fact defense, arguing he acted in self-defense because he genuinely believed his life was threatened by a supernatural entity. The court rejected his defense. The ruling established that a person cannot murder an innocent man based on an unreasonable fear. Smith was sentenced to hang, though the king quickly commuted the sentence to 1 year of hard labor. The legal paradox Smith created haunted the English courts for almost 2 centuries. It wasn't until 1984, in the landmark case R v. Williams, that the legal system finally settled the matter. Lord Chief Justice Lane established the subjective belief test. This ruling requires a defendant's actions to be judged against their subjective belief of reality, even if that belief is entirely mistaken. The law finally recognized what the Hammersmith tragedy proved. The most lethal threats originate within the flawless illusions our own minds project into the dark.